Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar. This is an internal webinar, as we all know, titled From Farm to Fork, How Can Blockchain Revolutionize Agribusiness? We have Manoj with us to present, and before we hand over to Manoj, a little bit about him. Manoj comes with a rich experience in project and delivery management, and he has worked in different geos across the world. Happy to have you here, Manoj. Now over to you. A little housekeeping before we start. Please put ourselves on mute if we are not talking, so that the recording goes well. Thank you all. Over to you, Manoj.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So, yeah. So see, the intent of this session webinar is to take you through how the blockchain technology can be implemented in one of the most volatile industry, which is a food industry, right? Because we are what we eat, correct? So for the quality criteria, the transparency in food is at most important, and even from a health perspective, also from a market perspective, it's predicted that the blockchain implementations in food industry, agri industry is targeting around 131 billion by 2000 in the next 5 years. So I'll start, and again, the session will not talk about blockchain in detail. We assume that the audience have an understanding of blockchain. Some basic points I'll touch upon. So we are here, when we tell about blockchain, the main point we hear is Bitcoin, right? So in agro-business, as the entities of this or the users who will be involved in the agro-business are not tax savvy, so we will not be talking about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in this webinar. So we can use any currency instead of cryptocurrency for the benefit of the transaction. Yeah? So I added a video from our Prime Minister on this. So once we share the PPT, you can go through that. Let's say he talks about the vision on from a technical standpoint on how blockchain can be useful for the farmers, because we are seeing all farmers use across India, and how this using technology can be of benefit to them. Okay, so we will be touching upon 5 key use cases. The first one is food safety. So what is food safety? Food safety deals with how safe the food that we are consuming, right? So is it adulterated? Is it coming from the right source? Have we got end-to-end traceability? So how blockchain help in food safety is that blockchain provides transparency as well as end-to-end traceability. We'll go through how the end-to-end traceability works in the subsequent slides. Yeah. Food waste. Food waste is one of the main problems that a country like India is facing, correct? So a large quantum of food is getting wasted without reaching the end consumers. We have seen that when the tomato season comes, or the onion season comes, the large quantities of farm products are thrown away and not reaching a processing plant or the end consumers. Correct? So food wastage is one of the key concerns in this industry, which can be addressed through blockchain. But the problem with food wastage is that the quantifying food wastage is very difficult now. Right? How much quantum of food is getting wasted? It's more, the predictions in that line are not clear. Right? Supply chain. The supply chain involved in the food industry are not very technical oriented or technology oriented. They use papers, they use gate passes and all for tracking the inventory movement from one point to other point. Also the coordination, there's very poor coordination in the food chain networks, and the chance of food becoming waste, again that's point number 2, is contributed by lack of proper supply chain. Brand loyalty is again an area which is only growing in food agri industry, right? So we have seen that many food products, people become more brand conscious now, but from a supplier standpoint, that area is a huge area to be explored. So a company like Walmart or a company like Reliance Fresh, so they have started this activity of making people brand conscious, but that's an area which has huge potential to grow. Food scams. Talking about food scams, right? There are so many scams happening in food, right? Starting from adulteration and black marketing of food, and inflation, price inflation. So seasonal price inflation. There are certain criteria which could inflate the price, but even the prices of the food are getting inflated forcefully by people with vested interest, right? So with blockchain, we can tighten the regulation across food industry. We can bring more transparency and collaborate with the different stakeholders involved in the agri-business, and give better results to the customers. We'll go through the next slide, which talks about different blocks. So see, there are different pros and even there are cons also for implementing blockchain in agriculture, right? Transparency, traceability, collaboration, competitive advantage, demand forecast, brand loyalty. These are the positives if we go with a blockchain. Even there are negatives also, like reconciliation, write-offs, disputes, cost. So see, when we technologize the entire process of process involved in agriculture industry, there are chances of more disputes. There are chances of write-offs, because we might need to write off, or the companies need to write off their debits, and also it can have cons also in this. But if you look at the pros, the cons are relatively having less impact in the drive for future. So I'll just go through different blocks in this. This is not in sequential order. This is just talking about the different blocks involved in the blockchain. Land registration. This is not a new land registration. This is registering the details of the land where actual farming is being done. Seed quality. What is a seed which is being used? The heredity of the genetics of the seeds, right? Involved in the agri-business. Food production. Who is producing the food? What are the processes involved in the production of the end product? Farmer data. Who is farming? When we are consuming a food item, if we can relate to the farmer who is actually spending his sweat and growing this product, that's a huge connect. From a corporate standpoint, it's a connect from a brand loyalty standpoint as well. Weather conditions. What are the weather conditions under which the crop is grown? Also, weather conditions are a two-phase, right? We'll explain that in the coming slides. Smart contracting. Smart contracting is an area which is growing now. It is just getting explored. And how smart contract can bring benefits to the farmers as well as the end customers. Smart payments. How can we use digital payment technologies and interlink that with smart contracts so that a faster transaction can happen. Track and trace. How can we track right from the point the seed is sown to the point where the harvest is done, to the point where the processing is done, and to when the product reaches the end consumers? How can we track the entire life chain of a product or of a crop, right? Managing finance. How can we better manage the finance? So this slide talks about a survey which was conducted on the different startups doing business in the agricultural domain using blockchain. So we have identified 5 different areas where the products are concentrated on. Traceability. There are a lot of companies working in the area of introducing traceability in the product. It starts with verification of the product, reducing food waste, product data, when it was harvested, who has harvested, when the data was processed, what is a trace to origin, how the food can be traced back to the originator. Then again, another important point is regarding the organic business, right? So we talk about organic farming, we talk about organic products, but how reliable those products are. We are just buying from the market by the name of organics. Consumers are paying higher costs for that. But when a brand introduce a reliability factor in the products they sell through the data available, from a blockchain layer, the seller the buyer will get more confidence on the seller, right? So these are the areas where under traceability a lot of startups are working. Second is regarding crop insurance. Crop insurance is a very important point, right? The farmers are losing money because of unpredicted floods, then rain, non-seasonal rains and all, right? So see, with the introduction of smart contract with an insurer and a farmer, the verification points is very quick because he can ensure the quality of the crop. He can ensure even he can use the latest technologies involved in weather prediction, accurate weather prediction, right? And he can even with getting the details of the land and the spatial details of where the farming is done, the GIS coordinates and all. He don't need to get back to the farmer for pictures of flood, for proofs of a drought, like that, right? He from the data available in the climate applications, we can use that data for releasing of funds automatically. So this makes the transaction between an insurance provider and a farmer, who is the most affected in this chain as on today, become seamless, correct? And we'll talk about how that works in the story, which we will be talking about, how the supply chain can be organized in the chain, in this agro chain. Then food supply optimization. Again, supply chain optimization is one of the key elements of the business, which undergoes huge transformation, right? So the main the points in supply chain, or key elements in the supply chain, is how we can empower farmers to set the price and quality. The many cases we have seen that the price at which the farmer is selling to his nearest dealer or retailer is much lower than the price that we as a consumer is paying for the same product, or a product coming out of the farmed crop in the market. So the actual benefit is not reaching the farmer, but the middleman and the middle layer consumes the bulk of the transactional amount, correct? So once we make the food supply chain, optimize the food supply chain, then the farmer will get more benefit, and even an end consumer will know how much price it has been paid to the farmer, because the transaction done to the farmer is also part of the blockchain, right? So the end consumer will know how the money, if I spend 10 rupees, how it is distributed down the line. Then provided up-to-date supply and demand. So going back to the same example I mentioned, right, about the crop coming into the market during season, and it gets wasted as food waste. So this area can also be optimized by technology, and so that the market can be predicted. For example, if a farmer knows that the tomato is going to hit his product is going to hit the market when the which is not good for him, or maybe the supply will be more than the demand, then he can change to a different crop at that point of time. He don't need to stick to the strict and take that risk, which can impact the earning that he will be getting out of the process, right? So these predictions, supply demand predictions, and the accuracy of it will enormously help the farmers to and work in their benefit. Food regulations, these are the points which touched upon earlier. There are a lot of companies are working in this area of food regulations, because around the globe, food regulations are getting tighter, correct? So, and black marketing, price inflation, food fraud, like false labeling, these are all issues which a common man or a common consumer face in today's scheme of things, right? So this is where efficiently implementing a blockchain can add value, and there are a lot of companies working or startups working in this direction. It is estimated to be a 31 billion business in next 5 years, which can come out of if we regulate in the area of food regulations. Yeah? So managing finance, finance is one key area in this, how the money is flowing from the customer to the end, to the farmer, who is the starting point of this chain, right? So how smart contracts, this area is just starting to grow. I've searched around in the internet to find that there are very less companies who are working in the smart contract area because of the complexity and how, and the point which I mentioned earlier, right? The reluctance of the people to accept Bitcoin as a transactional layer. So still people are intended to use their existing mode of finance like banks and all for the financial transaction. So that's more of a cultural change which is predicted to happen in the near future. See, I mentioned what is this market, the blockchain market. The size of the blockchain today is estimated at 75 million in globally. Yeah, but in the next 3 years, it will grow to 430 million. To see the growth, it's around 3 times the market is growing in blockchain technology exclusively for agri industry. Yeah, so this is the market analysis. Then we'll go to the story. So here I just cascaded it in as a story so that we know, when we can explain it better and the audience can understand better, right? How the blockchain is linked to the farming business. So the actors in this are the farmer, you can name him as Krish, the farmer, the supply chain, Joe, who runs the processing plant, John, the end customer. We mentioned Sean, the importer who is based in US. Vijay is an Indian exporter, bank. There's a crop insurance company, QA, port authority, and say customs authority. So these are the different actors in this. So we'll just go to the first scene. The first scene is farming, right? How the farming is done. So Krish, the farmer, is the core actor of this. And there are sub-elements of crop insurance and the bank. So what Krish will do is, you logging into the system, he will check what is the weather prediction for the next time or next 6 months when it is going to most impact his farm, right? Then he will check his weather predictions in the system. Then he will initiate a soil analysis. Again, log in the soil analysis in the system. He will check, he will identify which crop I need to be doing farming, and he will identify the seeds of it, the genetics of it, and then he will be logging that as a block in the blockchain. Then he will get the land registered, where the coordinates of the actual farm will be getting registered in the system, right? Then he will go to the crop insurance and say, oh, see, these are the details, this is my plan of action, this is the seed that I'm going to do farming on, these are the weather predictions for the next year. So the crop insurance finds that he has actually reduced the risk risk in that operation. So the part of the risk analysis is already done by the farmer. So crop insurance team will do the next level of risk analysis, and then he will issue the insurance. So then he will contact the bank and say, and for funds for purchasing seeds and initial farming, and he can show all the details to the banker that the product is insured. These are the risk analysis he has completed. Then bank analyzes this and he releases the funds to the farmer. So the bank details are also logged into the system. Then he starts the farming process, correct? So see, if we see the scene itself, right, what are the details it has been captured by the system? So the different blocks in this blockchain, like what environment the farming is done, what is the seed used, the genetics of the seeds, which genre or seed is used for farming, where is the farming done, what is the land where farming is done, what are the fertilizers he used or he is going to use for the farming, who is the insurance and the bank who has provided the details for the farming. So if you see, many of the base details of the product is already captured right at the starting level of the chain, right? He submit all the details in the system. And I mentioned mobile as a GUI, right? It could be a portal also. So whatever GUI you see, it will, it should be having the capability to handle these functions. So now we will go to the next stage, where the product is ready in the farm, and then he sees that the farmer identifies that the product is ready for harvesting, and he initiates a contract with the processing unit. So processing unit are plants who are the first link in this chain who buys the product directly from the farmer and converts it into a product, right? So the farmer will get into a smart contract with the processing plant. So we'll discuss what is smart contract, and we'll also discuss why smart contract. Okay, so see, smart contracts are in blockchain. For any transaction to happen, all the nodes of the chain should agree for that transaction. So there will be different nodes in this process itself, like, right? So if you see, the supply chain is a node, the farmer is a node, the processing plant is a node, the bank is a node, right? So if you see this, right, all the nodes should be linked to a common platform who can identify and recognize that a certain activity on one node is complete, so that the payment can be released, or the transaction can be processed, right? So the platform of smart contracts will be used for that. See, this even though we say it as smart contract, right, it is not, that area is not evolved. It is just in the starting, just taking baby steps here. So even this entire activity can be planned inside the portal with the help of a workflow engine, right? So that we'll discuss how the technical architecture should look like. So, okay, coming back. So again, the processing plan will agree on a smart contract with the supply chain network. Supply chain networks contacts the insurance team for the transit insurance, right? And then the crops, Chris identifies that the crops are ready to be shipped. He did the harvesting. He contacts the QA. QA does the initial quality check based on the fixed templates and agrees and updates all the certificates, QA certificates in the tool or in the portal. And once QA is certified, the supply chain takes over. The supply chain goes to the farm, collects the material, collects the crop from the farm, and does the transfer from farm to the processing unit, right? So at this point, when the supply chain takes over, Joe can release the smart contract, can be enabled, and right at that point, Joe can release the payment to the farmer. So in this case, when the supply chain takes over, the nodes in this, right? The farmer is a node. He can raise the invoice to the processing plant, and the Joe can acknowledge that, and supply chain, the risk of transfer from farm to the Joe's processing plant is covered by the insurance. So all the risk elements in this transaction is closed, and the payment can be processed. So we'll go to the next step, like how a decentralized smart ledger works. See, smart ledger is very key element in the blockchain, because the smart ledger are ledgers which will be decentralized, will be kept in the different nodes, right, of different parties, and each party will have a copy of the ledger. That's how it works. So AWS provides a chain, a service for smart ledgers, where every user node will be created, and that ledger will only have access for that node. So we propose to you in the architecture diagram, that's why we are proposed to use AWS smart ledger for this purpose. Yeah. So once the smart ledger is established, the farmer data will get logged into the ledger, the supply chain details will get logged into the ledger, and Joe's processing plant details will get logged into the ledger. So what details from the processing plant comes into the ledger are, see, the batch. This product, when reaches the processing plant, he will have a production plan, right? In the production plan, against this batch of crop, he will be producing another batch of the final product. So that mapping can be loaded into the smart ledger, so that the traceability is maintained. So we'll see what are the areas, blocks which has been identified now, right? See, when the harvesting was completed, the quality of the harvest, who was the supply chain involved, who processed the crop, when did the harvest reach the processing plant, price, cost details, right? See, think of a scenario where you are producing the processing plant is buying a product from the farmer, and it lays there in the unit processing plant for long, right? He might not be using the recent harvest. So this happens many times, right? So with blockchain, that scenario of food fraud can be avoided. Simple, right? Because we know when the crop was harvested, the details are loaded into the system. The moment you scan the final product in your mobile, the blockchain will get invoked, and all the details will be visible on the system. Right? And another scenario is regarding, see, there's a beverage industry, of wine industry, whiskey making industry, and all, right, where it hugely relies on the farming done in specific areas, right? We know that there are many brands, because that's more brand conscious industry, right? So they take raw materials from only one area, because if the grapes are cultivated in this area, that grapes will only be used, or barley cultivated in this particular landscape with this particular water, which will be only used for processing. So these details will make real sense for beverage industry. So we'll go to the last scene where the selling happens. How the Joe sells the product to the consumer, and how the smart contract comes into picture. Here, see, the first point is the importer who imports the processed product from a plant in India. So he contacts our exporter Vijay, and in turn he will get into a smart contract with Vijay, mentioning all the terms when the product will be delivered, and this details will be logged into the smart ledger. So here a commitment has been made, but this is not the commitment has been logged into the smart ledger, where all the nodes of the ledger will be aware, like Joe will be aware, the farmer will be aware that such a commitment has been made in the system. And once this contract is established, Vijay identifies the processing plant where he should be sourcing the material, and he will he will agree another contract with Joe. Here again, this block is this contract will know that there is another block available or already established in the ledger, right? So once that is done, then Joe, once the product is finalized, he contacts the customs, he gets the QA clearance, and he raises the e-invoice to Vijay, saying that the material is ready to be shipped. So in turn, Vijay contacts the port authority and releases the payment to Joe. So Vijay raises a shipping request so that the material can be shipped, and the shipping company or the port will load the bill of loading and bill of landing to the system. So once the importer sees that all the required quality as per the smart contract is met by Vijay, and the product has been loaded into the ship, and the insurance is covered on the transit of the ship, and port and bill of landing has been received, he can process the payment to Vijay electronically. Then the goods reaches the customer, and that's the end of the story, right? So here, if you see, right, here in this chain, Vijay is just a middleman in this, right? So with this scenario, which I mentioned here, there is an importance for Vijay, because this is not evolved. The blockchain network itself is not evolved, right? If you see a scenario, if for going forward, when the evolution of when the scenario itself evolves, the blockchain itself evolves, then Sean can directly contact Joe. Vijay's the role itself will not be there. So that is how blockchain eliminates a middleman, right? In this, so the different areas or different blocks identified in this chain is who processed the product, raw materials used, what are the QA done, what are the details of the importer exporter, and when was the import done, and what are the shipping details. All these details will get logged into the chain, also the price and cost details, right? So I'll just go to the slide. See this first picture in this slide, right? So a person scans the barcode of the final product, in this case orange. He will get all the details of the product in the mobile. So that is how right from farmer and right till the processing unit who has shipped it, whatever blocks I have mentioned, right, so that will be received on his fingertips. So that is where blockchain works in favor of the customer, right? So in their traceability, the transparency, everything can be made available at fingertips for any food product or any agro products being manufactured and processed, right? So I will close the loop. We'll just summarize what all points we have discussed. The key point is brings the financial benefit directly to the farmer, right? So here, unlike normal current operating scenarios, the connect the farmer's visibility till the end product reaches the customer is there, because he's part of the node. So he will know that there is no black, he will know all the price details of the final product and how much he is gaining in the chain. So his bargaining capacity increases in the next cycle, because he's one of the key nodes in this, right? Same is with processing plant. Processing plant will also understand the end-to-end traceability and what is the demand, what's the demand in the market, and how soon the product is getting consumed in the market. So all entire transparency of the chain is visible. Third point is regarding the supply chain efficiency. The supply chain, any delay in the supply chain or any return to the market, all these can be more optimized because of availability of information throughout the chain, right? So the second key point is encourages more sustainable production methods, because even the once the entire process is aware, he can plan the products processing units can plan their production better, because they know when the material will be available, when it can be sourced, and what is the quality of the sourcing of the material, and what is the customer feedback on receiving the material or receiving the final product. So the chain brings transparency on all the nodes in operation. Extends retailer and manufacturer visibility. The same point I discussed earlier. Everybody is aware of who are the key elements in the chain and how the data flows from the start to end. The business benefits, the points regarding waste reduction, inventory optimization, planning for future. All these elements can be made available or can be worked upon using the blockchain technology. Last but not the least, ethical economy. The money is tracked, money trail is tracked right from the start to end, and its entire transactions are ethical. There is no scope for black marketing. There is no scope for price inflation, because it's tracked from start to end. We can all the regulations are involved, because see the point which I discussed earlier of a brand loyalty. A brand like Walmart comes into the market and say that he's sticking to these qualities, criteria right from the farming till the product is tested and retailed to the consumer. Consumers will tend to get attached to that brand more quickly because of the reliability factor he is introducing in the table, right? The last point is corruption, black marketing. These elements can be minimized, or we can remove the dependencies of this from the market. So I'll go to the technical architecture. See, this is just a scrap. Okay, so we have to brainstorm this collectively and come up with how an architecture can be created which is suit to the purpose, right? And again, cost is a big factor in this. So we are talking about a portal with workflows ability so that the smart contracts can be managed in the portal. The different users who will be using the portal are farmers, insurance providers, processing units, exporters, importer, QA. And we can use services like Watson's or weather service and integrate that to the portal and GIS data into the portal, so that all the details of the weather prediction and where the farming is done can be captured, right? The data can be sent or will be sent to AWS managed blockchain service of AWS, which will be in turn using the quantum ledger database of AWS. And it should have a mobile GUI, which is an extended hand for the portal, because nowadays even farmers, most of the farmers will be having a mobile handheld device. So that is the best medium for us to start engaging the farmers into the chain. Then integrate the production planning ERP system of the processing plants into the ledger. Also the demand tracking, like demand tracking applications which are used by exporters or importers, can also be integrated to the scheme. So with this and the entire final product, once it codes out in the form of a barcode, which I mentioned in the next picture, all the details related to that product is captured in this chain. So when the moment the user goes to the market, scans the product, the chain will be evoked, the entire details will be flown to the end user interface, and the visibility increases. So this is the proposed model. Again, this is a scratch. We have to brainstorm it and make it, better. If in turn we want to explore this for 30 million market in the next 3 years. Yeah, I'll open to questions.
Thank you, Manoj. Questions? Any questions?
Hi, Manoj. Masood here.
Hey, Masood.
This is not a technical question, but I just want to understand from the fact that blockchain was there for a while now. I have 2 questions. Primarily, I just want to understand, while I've seen the article, just want to understand from your opinion perspective, who is the leader in blockchain market? That's the first question.
Okay. So in this particular market, right, in this particular food chain market, IBM has a food trust, okay, so which holds around 80% of the market. So there are around 20,000 end users have logged into that chain across the globe. So IBM's food market, I think it's food market trust. That's the leading product in this. Yeah. See, there are so many other elements in blockchain, right? 1 minute. The Ethereum lane, and also there are other players in the market. But from an end-to-end solution perspective, in agro-business, IBM's food trust holds the key. Because they were first to be in the market. They came into this agro-business in 2018 with a solution. And they have, and again, see, as we discussed earlier, right? The market share today is 75 million. So which is what has been explored by these players, right? And the market, the next 3 years, we are expecting 3 times growth in this. So it's a huge vacuum area. And the amount of money that or cost involved in the IBM products are extremely high, right? So there exists the scope for a niche company coming up with a niche product which is fit for the purpose.
Right, I kind of seen that almost 80% of market share is being controlled by IBM while they being a pioneer in this. Excellent. So second question is primarily from the fact that compared to India versus US on these particular areas, I mean, where do we stand? As because
so see, that's why I will go back to the first video which I showed, right? See, India is starting to explore in this.
Manoj, just 1 second. I think it's a good time to play that video. So I think Murthy, with your permission, I would request Manoj to play that video.
See, that video is in Hindi, so
It's okay. So, yeah.
Manoj, the video is not shared. I'm not sure if you're playing it on your screen.
Oh, is it? It's not being.
Yeah, it's not. I think yeah, we are not able to see it.
Oh, sorry. Let me share this. Is it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audio.
We are still not able to get the audio. Manoj.
Is it? Okay, so
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, Manoj, there is a settings while sharing. It says that enable computer sound, something like that. While you share.
So this is Drew here. If you don't mind, can I take up a question?
yeah, sure.
Okay, so the Indian market, since I had done involved with a lot of startups on the blockchain as well as the agriculture industry, like a Trust Trace, Wakepool, Agri-evolution, okay, and a lot of companies. Okay, there are two fundamentals problems. Okay, it's not about the technology enabler. Technology enabler, we have a lot of technology that can be leveraged as the tool to make it happen. One, the first fundamental is the Land Act. Okay, you have to understand the Indian Land Act. Still, Niti Aayog proposed on 2016. Still, it is not adopted by any of the states. So anybody who is in a corporate touching up the land will be scared, first of all. Okay, so that's a major problem in India, because there is a Ceiling Act, Land Ceiling Act. If you all of you are aware of, known that actually, way back it is in 1950 when the or 1940 then, before British handed over. Okay, so that's the act being followed, where now the farmers, if they are using the land, they have the 50% rights on the land. So the corporates occupying the land is having a major concern. So still that Land Ceiling Act has to be removed, and Niti Aayog proposed 2016 the Land Leasing Reform Act, okay, which has to be adopted by the every state. After that only everything can be started, because it all starts from the fundamental of your land, because everything you grow on a land belongs to somebody on a land. Okay, that is where the first fundamental problem as far as India. So that is, if you see this year budget, Nirmala Sitharaman announced that as the first recommendation, all state to be adopted that. Okay, it's in fact first recommendation made. Once they move forward that, then everything will fall. The second is the currency. Okay, because you see the smart contract or anything that to happen, your fundamental thing is the account again. The account is now cannot be linked with the bank, and bank is still have to be act as a middleman as far as the most of the legals are concerned. Okay, the fundamental concept of the blockchain is to remove the middleman, including a bank, which is not possible without having your digital currency being employed, like a Bitcoin or a bit asset or anything that has to come. That adoption also has to come. Okay, then only that adoption in India can happen a much more faster fashion. Rest of the use cases on a supply chain, like a Wakepool company or a Trust Trace company, where they are doing a source of identification and source of, like, if you go and eat in a food restaurant, you'll be knowing that which tomato is being grown by which farmer. Okay, that is that and all is in growing state on some of the companies are really doing that. They're actually like a demands are more in India as well, which will become eventually a legal in your store on everything that you have rights to know that ingredients of that should be known to the everything of the fact. Okay, that is getting actually as far as the Indian market, the adoption expected to be a 2022 or a 22-23 only on a major scenario. Till the time you have to wait.
Yeah, and to add on to that, right? I just today morning I met a person who is working in blockchain industry. Okay, for the past 2 years, what he was saying is that now even the cotton market, right, the clothing, they are also adopting the same chain which we have discussed right from the farmers, and some manufacturers like Puma and all are already started building this chain. So the textile industry is also evolving and started to use blockchain technology so that the traceability of where the yarn is coming from, who made the cotton. So all these things is done today.
Yeah, traceability is there. Trust Trace is a company which is one of
yes, correct. Trustees. Yes.
One of my friend is my CEO and CTO. Okay, it's a Panther-based company. Where actually, yeah, but they're actually again more than a blockchain. The usage of the technology is more of a text analytics, because all your existing contracts needs to be read, which are all in the certificates and contracts, which has to be read in a texture. Okay, that's where the more effort is being going on. Okay, so there are a lot more work in that. Okay, after that only the adoption of blockchain is not a very complex way now with all the technology in place. Adoption to the blockchain is not complex on a technology enabler, what you have now. Only problem is on the other aspects on the legalities and adoptions from the market conditions are much more we need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Manoj, we have one more question from Sheikh. Who could be the sponsor for the BC project among the various stakeholders?
That is for Murthy to answer.
Pardon? What is that?
Who could be the sponsor for the BC project among the various stakeholders?
Project, is asking about in a blockchain project, who would be the stakeholder in the question?
Yes, I think it's generic. Yeah.
Is it generic? Okay. So see, in blockchain, that I'll take. Sorry, I thought it's in BCT terms. Okay, so in a blockchain chains, right? There are there are nodes which are responsible for conducting the transaction. So, for example, they are called miners who will be attaching the prior node to the existing node. Right? So, a company has to facilitate this. There is a big scope for a facilitator. So that facilitator, especially once a digital Bitcoin comes into the picture, right? So the facilitator will be the transactor in this case. So he will be managing the entire transaction from start to end. So he will be the sponsor. So whichever company decides to facilitate will be the sponsor. In case of IBM's Food Trust, IBM has a entity which manages the end-to-end blocks and that cryptocurrency between the interested parties. So there is a scope for a facilitator. So whoever holds the infrastructure can act that role. Is that clear?
Sheikh, to put it in a different way, the concept is called consideration. Okay, which is essentially means that blockchain, the fundamental concept is that whoever is contributing to an extent of something, they should be benefit something out of it. It's not that a single person who sponsor and get only a benefit by him or her. Okay, so it's actually like, as he mentioned about the miner. Okay, even in case if your home computer is willing to do some mining activity or some hosting activity or some DB activity for the blockchain to be stored. Okay, and if that is happened to be leveraged by the distributed node actually, then you will also get a small amount of consideration to get benefited. So more the participant, every participant, the concept is called consideration, which is actually like more the participation from everyone actually, then you get a share out of it. So there need not be a single sponsor. Okay, so anybody can take an effort of creating a chain and hosting it anywhere actually, because it's the whole fundamental concept goes on a distributed way. So the more your participant comes, the more the use cases comes and participating that, you get popularity, you get more money and every participation. That's how we will grow actually. So that can be, fundamentally, there can be anybody. Okay, so
every transaction
need not be anyone in that actor itself.
Correct. Yeah. Anyone who does the transaction between the nodes, right? He can be a miner. So the mining activity is very critical in a blockchain. So that's why I told we are not going in depth in that blockchain functionality because we will divert from the core topic, right? So and every transaction, the miners will get a part, I mean, a fee we called for that, right? So, and that fee is different in Bitcoin. Some call it as gas, some call it as fuel. So depending upon the cryptocurrency you use, the terminologies for fees change.
In this case, I have a question on this. Like Thiru mentioned that there is a corporate ceiling and those land ceiling act and all. But that does mean that small farmers cannot be using this, or they cannot use it, or even with the farmers like who owns 2 acres or 5 acres of land, they could still possibly use this thing, right? Or what prevents them from being used?
No, when I mean the fundamentals, okay, see, the Land Ceiling Act, if you go through that, participation or bringing in the documentation or making a smart contract or making a contract farming, these are the complications that are involved. Okay, it doesn't mean that a small farmer or a big farmer. Okay, it can be start from less than an acre to more than an acre, no problem. Okay, so there is no small or big involved in that. Okay, the scaling is from a small to big is allowed. But when I say a ceiling act, is completely a different. See, you have to, one of the main participants, if you see in the slide, is a land documents actually, which is where the complexity is more. Okay, so unless there are two fundamentals on the land ceiling act which has to be refined. One has to be adopted by the state government on that on the land ceiling act to be defined. The second is the smart contracting. This is actually, if you see 2019 October, Palaniswamy announced smart. Actually, there is a contract farming being announced for the agriculturist, which is small farmer can leverage by making a no broker to directly have a contract price, which is basically, that commodity market where you have a fixed price or the future price. Okay, the tomato is grown for the 20, the farmer needs to be secured, especially smaller farmer. I want a price of 20 rupees. If there is a fluctuation, if the somebody, a Reliance or somebody goes to the 10 rupees to the different price, then the farmer gets impacted. That is the reason that contract farming being introduced already, okay, which can be leveraged by the small farmer, which is going to be definitely a benefit for the small farmers. Okay, so which is what the price being actually tagged on that. Okay, so these acts has to be in place so that you can put them in a, you can enable them in a blockchain smoothly to make it working. That's all.
Okay.
Sorry, Manoj, I took some.
No, that's fine, because see, these market insights and regulations, right? That are some key areas in this, right? So it's very good that you have stepped up and shared that knowledge. And then that is a reason why India, it is very slow, right? Getting adopted to these technologies are very in the baby steps, as I mentioned earlier. So maybe in the next 2-3 years, we can see multiple applications, porting farmers and processing units into the scheme of things.
Yeah, hope so. Yeah.
And one more example I want to share, that 2.5 years before, when we went to a distillery, right, I saw they are already doing this. They're already mapping the farmers. They're already mapping the area where this farming is done, how much rain has happened. So beverage industry, this is going to have a huge impact because of the brand consciousness or the brand loyalty, right? So that's where brand loyalty comes. So like in wine industry and all, the grapes coming from a specific area holds the key for the end result, right? So that area is, and France, there are so many farms in France, Spain and all who are already adopted this. So that area is very fast growing, and it has a limited scope also there because of the number of brands available, but that area is fast growing.
Yeah, in fact, there's a company starting a rum, okay, on making a breweries of that.
Yeah.
In a similar concept, okay, so which will get popularized sooner, okay, where Europe-based company coming in with the rum, not in a wine actually, and the same similar fashion that they want to go with.
Okay, Kavita, okay.
Thanks, Manoj. Are you able to play that video, or should we?
Just try 1 minute. Share the computer sound, right? Okay.
Yeah.
कृषि छात्र से कृषि वैज्ञानिक बनते हुए वैल्यू एडिशन करते हुए आप अपने स्तर पर कृषि क्रांति का नेतृत्व कर सकते हैं। जैसे एक महत्वपूर्ण विषय है एग्रीकल्चर में आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, ये आने वाले समय में खेती के क्षेत्र में क्रांतिकारी परिवर्तन लाने वाला है। कृषि जैसे एक महत्वपूर्ण विषय है एग्रीकल्चर में आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, ये आने वाले समय में खेती के क्षेत्र में क्रांतिकारी परिवर्तन लाने वाला है। देश के कुछ हिस्सों में सीमित स्तर पर किसान इसका इस्तेमाल कर भी रहे हैं, जैसे बुआई और पेस्ट कंट्रोल के लिए ड्रोन जैसी तकनीक का इस्तेमाल आज अब धीरे धीरे शुरू हुआ है। इसके अलावा सॉइल मैपिंग और कम्युनिटी प्राइसिंग में भी टेक्नोलॉजी काम कर रही है। इसके अलावा आने वाले दिनों में ब्लॉकचेन टेक्नोलॉजी का भी बड़ा अहम रोल रहेगा। इस तकनीक से सप्लाई चेन की रियल टाइम मॉनिटरिंग हो पाएगी। इससे कि मैं खेती में होने वाले लेन देन में पारदर्शिता आएगी। सबसे बड़ी बात, बिचौलियों की बदमाशी पर भी लगाम लगेगी और उपज की बर्बादी भी लगाम लगेगी। साथियों, ये भी हम सभी को भली भांति पता है कि किसान की लागत बढ़ने की एक वजह खराब क्वालिटी के बीज, फर्टिलाइजर और दवाइयां भी होती हैं। ब्लॉकचेन टेक्नोलॉजी से इस समस्या पर नियंत्रण पाया जा सकता है। इस तकनीक के माध्यम से प्रोडक्शन की प्रक्रिया से लेकर किसानों तक पहुंचने तक किसी भी चरण पर प्रोडक्ट की जांच आसानी से की जा सकती है। एक पूरा नेटवर्क होगा जिसमें किसान, प्रोसेसिंग यूनिट्स, वितरक, रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज और उपभोक्ता की एक चेन होगी। इन सभी के बीच नियम और शर्तों के आधार पर बनाए गए स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पर यह तकनीक विकसित की जा सकती है। इस पूरी चेन से जुड़ा व्यक्ति क्योंकि इस पर नजर रख सकता है, लिहाजा इसमें भ्रष्टाचार की गुंजाइश भी कम रहेगी।
Thank you.
Yep, that's it.
Thanks, Manoj. Thanks, Kavita, for organizing this. I think it's been a good session, and I'm sure, yeah, there are legal requirements with respect to digital currency and all that in India. I think in the near future, I'm sure there will be a lot of applications of blockchain and digital currencies in India as well.
Yeah. So, do we have any volunteers for the next webinar? So this will be purely knowledge sharing sessions among us, and I would welcome anybody. I mean, you can reach out to me post this call to let me know if you're interested in hosting a webinar, and we'll be happy to support you with that. So we can take that offline. Thank you so much for joining this webinar, and thank you, Manoj, for a very enlightening session. We will continue these conversations, and please keep it coming. Thank you so much. Have a great day and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you, Murthy.